where the koala bears at.
Happy Wednesday. I am back. It's been a while, and it's actually been because of my back that I have not been back, but here we go. It is time for punchlines, and look, no better time to do it than right after this tremendous fight that took place in New York City this past Saturday at Madison Square Garden. Sold out show. Two premier fighters facing off in their primes. I'm talking, of course, about Shakur Stevenson and, of course, about Teofimo Lopez Jr. at Madison Square Garden. I was supposed to go. I was credentialed to go. And unfortunately, I've been really, really bad. My back has been bad, and I could not get out of my home, let alone had trouble moving around my home. And so I had to watch it from the best seat in the house, right at home, watching on my big screen. And look, I'm not going to say I was surprised by what I saw, because I was telling anybody that would listen to me that I expected Shakur Stevenson to win decisively, comprehensively this past Saturday night. Did I think he would win by shutout? No, I did not predict shutout. I thought maybe 9 rounds to 3. I actually only gave Teofimo Lopez 0 rounds. I didn't give him any rounds. I know he got 1 round on the judges' scorecard. I assume it was the same round that the commentators gave him. I didn't give him that round. I didn't give him any rounds. I thought Shakur Stevenson boxed a Michelangelo 16th Chapel painting of a fight this past Saturday. It was beautiful to watch. And I've been saying it for a long time. Shakur is extremely talented. Now, where you have him in the pound for pound list is obviously going to be very subjective. I think he's number 1 pound for pound in the United States. Number 1 pound for pound in the world. Little bit difficult to say that. I know there are people out there who think that the NBA championship is a world champion, or that the MLB World Series champion is the world champion, or that the, like I said, NFL, NBA champions are world champions. They are not. They are all national champions. I think Shakur is now the premier U.S. fighter in the sport. I don't think there's a question about that. I think we saw Saturday why a fight with him and Tank Davis never materialized. I think we also saw, quite frankly, why a fight with him and Loma, who he was calling out for a really long time, never materialized. He's head and shoulders above everybody. Is he pound for pound number 1 in the world? That's debatable. I don't think a lot of people are going to go all the way there when you have Usyk there. Interestingly, I still see people who have Bam ahead of him on their list. I'm not going to go there. I think he's ahead of Bam. I think this last fight against Teofimo Lopez solidified that. Champion at 126, unified champion at 130, champion at 135, still champion at 135, and now Ring Magazine champion, lineal champion, WBO champion at 140, pitching a shutout. You know, was it a perfect game? Was it a no-hitter? No, but it was a shutout to me against Teofimo Lopez Jr., against someone who has been given a lot of accolades, a supremely talented fighter, champion in his own right at 135. He would argue undisputed, but definitely lineal, beat Loma. Champion at 140, he would also argue undisputed, but definitely lineal, having defeated Josh Taylor. And guess what? I'm going to say it. I didn't hear anybody else say it, but I'm going to say it. He is Shakur Stevenson, the takeover. I mean, if you are the takeover and you just got taken over, the guy that took you over is now the takeover. So, él es el conquistador. I know Teofimo Lopez for a long time was the conquistador, the Spanish fighter, fighting out of Spain, representing Spain and all of the Spanish people out there. Well, Shakur isn't Spanish, but he's part Puerto Rican. And he just took over the takeover. So I guess you got to give him takeover status. So from this day forward, on this channel, El Conquistador, the takeover, is none other than Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, a.k.a. the takeover. Because listen, he just took it over. He took over Teofimo Lopez. He took over Madison Square Garden. He took over New York City. He took, and by the way, with all due respect to Shoe York City and Shoo, I know Shoo got that win for the WBC title. I get it. But no, the king of New York is Shakur Stevenson. The king of the Northeast is Shakur Stevenson. The king of the United States is Shakur Stevenson. The king of the world, well, that is still to be determined. But for the intents and purposes of the United States and U.S. boxing, North American boxing, Shakur Stevenson just took it over. He's the takeover. And I have him as my pound for pound number one fighter in America. And I'm, when I say America, I don't just mean the United States. I mean North America, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America combined. That's America, right? That's Shakur Stevenson, the takeover. So there you go. Look, the question now, if you're Shakur, is where do you go from here? Where do you go from sellout, attendance record, Madison Square Garden? Where do you go next? Well, I mean, I would have loved to see the Tank Davis fight, but Tank Davis clearly is dealing with Tank Davis issues right now outside of the ring. So that's kind of off the table. But if we go to the rankings at 140 pounds and 135 pounds, the two divisions where Shakur does have title belts, world title belts, we can kind of get an idea of what's available to Shakur Stevenson. So let's start with the lightweight division. We have the IBF title held by Raymond Murataya, who defeated none other than Andy Cruz a couple weeks back in Vegas. That is a potential fight right there. Is it a lucrative fight? He did say he wants big fights. That's what he said after the fight at MSG. We have the aforementioned Gervonta Tank Davis, who for whatever reason has been granted recess status by the WBA. Well, he's been loyal to the WBA. The WBA has been very loyal to him. So I guess you've got that. Let's not forget, he was supposed to fight Floyd Schofield in Riyadh. Remember that? And he ended up fighting Josh Padley as a last-minute replacement instead. He's, in terms of Padley, has definitely shown how good he is in recent fights. We have Abdullah Mason, the WBO champion. And we also have Javier Herrera, the Cuban fighter based out of, I believe, Dubai. He's the WBC interim champion. So we've got Murataya, we've got Herrera, and we have Abdullah Mason as potential opponents at 135 pounds. Guys, let me know what you think about those potential opponents. I think because of the name recognition, of these potential opponents, I can see why Shakur sought out a big fight at 140 against none other than Teofimo Lopez. Much bigger name than any of the guys I just mentioned. However, he is still the WBC champion at that weight class. Now, you look at 140, you've got Hitchens. I don't see him fighting Hitchens because they're pretty close, although if the money is there, I'm sure he'd do it, although I don't think the money would be there for that fight, with all due respect. Gary Antoine Russell, that's definitely a winnable fight for Shakur. Dalton Smith, he's the WBC champion. Isaac Cruz, WBC interim champion. I'm not understanding the WBC right now with all these interim belts, to be honest. I mean, we just saw it at 135 with Herrera, and we're seeing it now at 140 with Isaac Cruz. I don't really get that. Shakur, I guess you could argue he kind of left the division, so maybe, but Dalton Smith just won the title. I don't know why there's an interim title at 135. We're going to get to that later, this whole WBC thing, because I'm going to talk a little bit about where I stand on this whole WBC versus UFC / TKO / Zuffa boxing argument. I think Zuffa boxing's dead on arrival. I'll explain that in a moment. So you've got WBC interim Isaac Cruz, and you got WBO Shakur Stevenson, who we, of course, are discussing. Biggest fight out of those three potential matchups? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, but I gotta say, Dalton Smith in a UK fight is the biggest fight out of those potential opponents. Just gonna say it. Although I don't think any of these three guys are up to the challenge of defeating Shakur Stevenson. Just my opinion. All right. So we did hear him call out a fighter at 147. Now, the fighter he called out wasn't a champion. He didn't call out Crocker. He didn't call out Romero. He didn't call out Barrios. He didn't call out Devin Haney. Although I did hear him discuss Devin Haney with my guy Najee from Cigar Talk. He called out Conor the Eggman Ben. Let me tell you something. That fight, I'd actually like to see that fight just for the pure entertainment value. And we often hear the word exposed used in boxing. I think it's often overused, the term exposed. But let me put this way. For anyone who thinks that Conor Ben is an elite level fighter, if you think that, Conor Ben will get exposed by Shakur. And I'll tell you why he'll get exposed. He will get exposed because he will not win a single round against a lightweight. And that's a 147-pound fighter. He's going to get disarmed. He's going to get befuddled, confused, frustrated. All right. And it's not going to be good because it's going to lead to him being embarrassed by Shakur Stevenson. Just my opinion. Everything we saw Shakur do to Teofimo, in and out of range, jabbing him even when he thought about throwing a punch, right? The feints didn't work. The ambush attacks didn't work. The switches to southpaw didn't work. And when he was able to get past that jab range, what happened to Teofimo? He got punished by right hooks and by left hands. Shakur, like I often remark about fighters that I really like to watch, fought at levels. There was a great ratio between body attack, head attack. The angles were good, but more than the angles, it was really just the timing, the distance, the jab, and every now and again letting him break that distance and making him pay with that right hook and that left hand. It was beautiful to watch. It would be even worse for Conor Ben. It would be much worse for Conor Ben. Let me give a big up to the people who have dropped a few comments here. We got Logan Little. Salute to you, champ. Chicano. My man, Chicano Prophet Carlos. Good to see you. My man, M. Easy BX. Good to see you, too. Star Fox. Good to see you, fam. Good to see everybody here. And it looks like you guys agree with me about Conor Ben and Shakur. Listen, last summer, when the card in Riyadh was announced, I was hanging out with Wally Moses and Russ Amber separately, and I was talking about Shakur. And they were just telling me how, Russ was telling me how great Shakur is and, one of the best guys he's ever worked with. I actually want to follow up with Russ. By the way, congrats to Russ Amber again on making it to the Hall of Fame. Great boxing mind. And he was just talking about the brilliance, the IQ, basically the fact that Shakur's the total package. And when I was speaking to Coach Moses, his grandfather, about Shakur, my concern really at that point, and this was when he was getting ready to fight Schofield, was the hands, right? The hand issues that he's faced throughout his career. And what I thought was correct was actually absolutely correct. The times where we've kind of seen Shakur be less offensive in more recent fights had to do with his hand issues. He's had a lot of hand issues, but what Coach Moses had told me that time, and this was again before he was supposed to fight Kid Schofield, was that they'd sought out experts and received advice, and he was doing things a little differently and different exercises and recovery treatments and that. And I think now that we've seen Shakur with healthier hands, we've really seen him, when he needs to, sit down on his punches and remind people that, listen, you want to break that distance, is going to be a price to pay. You want to break that range, there's going to be a price to pay. You want to go from outside to mid-range to inside, there's going to be a price to pay. And again, I think we saw that with Shakur against Teofimo. So I'm actually very excited to see where Shakur goes from here. In terms of Teofimo, believe it or not, I think Paulie Malignaggi had a great idea. So big up to Paulie for this one. Paulie suggested that what Teofimo should do next is rematch Gambosis. Guess what? Gambosis is at 140. Gambosis beat him, so there's a story there. In my opinion, that would be a big enough fight to give him a decent purse, especially if they do it out in Australia. It's a winnable fight for him. It's a way to avenge that loss. And then later on, if he wants to, maybe then move up to 147. But I don't really see the purpose in moving up to 147 just yet, which is something I heard him talk about. I don't really see it. I don't really see him being any better right now at 147. Maybe they think Crocker is a worthwhile or opponent. I don't know. Maybe they want to go after Haney. There's a back and forth a few years ago with Haney. Maybe Barrios or Romero or whoever comes out on top with him and Ryan Garcia. Who knows? But I think the best fight for him right now is Gambosis. And if he can avenge that loss against Gambosis, right that wrong, just like Lennox Lewis did after losing his fights, he always avenged his losses. Right? He comes back, a little bit more confidence, facing someone off of a win. I think that's a good look for Teofimo. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. Let me know where you guys put Shakur pound for pound right now. Where do you have him? I'm assuming definitely top 10. I'm assuming probably top 5. Gotta be top 5, right? I mean, there are good names out there. Bivol, who we saw in New York City. Better Beeb is still up there. Usyk. Crawford's off the list because he's retired, but Inoue, Bam, good fighters. So we'll see what happens. So before I get to the discussion about TKO boxing, because I have had time to formulate my opinions, as they've matured and evolved on this topic of TKO or Zuffa boxing. I did want to get in to something that happened earlier today. I think it was earlier today with Deontay Wilder and Simon Jordan from TalkSport. So let's have a look at that. But before we do me a favor, guys, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Just punchlines. Here we go.
My punchline's harder than a grizzly bear smack. If you try to get beat air, you'll head black. Put you down under like where the koala bear's at.
And I'm back. So, wow. Where do I start on this one? Okay. We got to go back to Fury against Wilder 1, the first fight, right? LA, Staples Center. It was a cherry pick gone wrong. Team Wilder decided that they were going to bring out this fat English gypsy who had ballooned out of weight and had 2 lower level comeback fights. Sefet Safari and Pianetta, I think were the names. And I thought Fury won that fight. We all remember the 12th round. We all remember the Undertaker moment. And we all remember the excuses after the fight. We all remember the excuses, right? The long count, Jack Reese, Tyson Fury had the complexion for the complexion for the protection, I think was the term. Okay. Right. Then we get to the rematch in Vegas, right? Fury comes back. He's much bigger this time. And after the fight, we heard everything under the sun. We heard the suit was too heavy. We heard the water was spiked. I believe the accusation was against Mark Breland, U.S. Olympian, last Olympic gold medalist from New York City, actually. And that was, 26 years ago? Or 46? I think so, right? 40 years ago, 42 years ago. Long time ago, anyways. So there was the suit, there was Mark Breland, there was the egg weights, it was like a whole conspiracy, right? Everything other than I got beat by the better man. Okay. In my opinion, Tyson Fury was 2-0 at that point, but we ended up with a trilogy fight, right? So don't forget, Fury was supposed to fight Joshua, but Fury couldn't fight Joshua because Wilder, who couldn't exercise the rematch right away because of an injury, I guess because of the spiked water and the suit and the egg weights in the glove, right? All of a sudden decides to pursue arbitration, and to the surprise of many, including me, who had been relying on Harvard Law graduate Bob Arum's legal analysis, believed that he was going to lose that arbitration and Fury was going to fight Joshua. Unfortunately, we still haven't seen Fury versus Joshua. I don't even know if it's going to happen after that tragedy in Nigeria. I don't know what's going to happen to Anthony Joshua and his career or potential fight with Fury at this point. But the fact is, we ended up with a third fight. So we ended up with Fury versus Wilder 3. Now, I would have thought that after that comprehensive destruction, that brutal knockout loss, and by the way, Mark Breland saved him from permanent damage in the second fight. Mark Breland wasn't there to save him in the third fight. Malik Scott was there. And Malik Scott gave Deontay Wilder everything Deontay Wilder wanted. He wanted to go out on his shield. He didn't want anybody stopping the fight. But he got brutally knocked out in the third fight. I would have thought it was over at that point. I would have thought at this point, you're just going to say, listen, I lost to the better man. No excuses. Unfortunately, that is incorrect. I only saw clips of this thing. I saw the short snippets of it. I found the full video. It dropped not too long ago. Here is none other than the former WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder, in the Talk Sports studios in London to promote his upcoming fight with Derek Chisora. And here is Simon Jordan ready to ask him some questions. Here we go.
Some Fury.
We don't want to talk about him.
No, you're going to.
We're here about.
No, but you're going to.
We're not going to talk about him
but
at all.
But as part
we're not going to talk about him at all. Understand that?
No, fair enough.
All right, then. So let's move on. It's all about Derek Chisora, and that's it.
I understand that.
Wow. Okay. So the interview doesn't get to ask what the interview wants to ask. You get to dictate to Simon Jordan what he gets to ask. Okay, I got it, but let's continue.
Understand that.
Back, baby. Y'all understand that? You better be. If the fourth is going down,
the only reason
at the O2, you better be there.
Fabulous.
You'll be a square.
The only reason I mentioned it is because it's part of the shtick that goes with you. And I missed you first time around when you came in here 3 years ago, when you were in your pomp 4 years ago, doing Bomb Squad and all that sort of stuff. And I've always wanted to have a conversation with you because you've made observations about Fury. I have my own views on Fury, and you've called him a cheat. And it leads me.
The biggest in boxing.
Yeah, but it leads me to a conclusion.
Biggest in boxing. If somebody practicing, taking their stuff out of their gloves in training, what you think they're gonna do in the fight?
Yeah, but
that's all I got to say about that.
I want to put something to you about you, right? And Fury just happens to be the hook for it.
That's all I got to say about him.
You talked about being cheated in that fight. You talked about water being spiked. You talked.
This guy's got the Zelensky sniff going on right now. I guess he caught a cold.
Your Game of Thrones outfit being too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
You said it was too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well I might be wrong on that one. You talked about the long.
Y'all took a journalist that said something because y'all, everybody wanted to come in. Oh wow, boom, boom, boom.
You talked about a long count, right? And then you talked about the trainers, Mark Breland not being good enough.
No, I didn't say he wasn't good enough.
So what I'm asking you in all of this is, it sounds to me, given the character that you are, that's like a little bit flaky. And those fights were lost. And you saying that someone like Fury cheated you in those fights, I think is kind of disappointing to me about you because
I know.
Okay, I gotta give it to Simon Jordan because I'm sorry. Too many interviewers have conducted interviews with Deontay Wilder and have failed to bring up the fact that he made all of these allegations against Tyson Fury. But to me, more importantly, it's one thing to talk badly about your opponent. That's poor sportsmanship. That's being a sore loser. We get it. You got to take your losses like you take your wins. Right, I didn't hear Arthur Spielka or Luis Ortiz or Dominique Brazil saying anything about him after they lost. Okay, but when you start throwing your trainer under the bus, former welterweight world champion, last Olympic gold medalist from New York City, The man's in a bunch of different Hall of Fames. I think he's like in 5 or 6 different Hall of Fames, including the like African American Sports Hall of Fame. I'm talking about Mark Breland. Someone had to do this. Someone had to ask this man, fam, you said all of this stuff about Mark Breland. Like, that's very disappointing. Well, what was the first thing he said? Facts. And then it was, well, actually, I didn't say, well, I forget exactly what he said, but his first reaction to the statement about Mark Breland was facts. Actually, not facts. Let's go.
What I'm asking you in all of this is, it sounds to me, given the character that you are, that's like a little bit flaky. You lost those fights, and those fights were lost. And you saying that someone like Fury cheated you in those fights, I think is kind of disappointing to me.
You can say
about
what you want. I know the truth. I have the facts.
Okay.
Understand that. But I got the facts of it.
No, fair enough.
I got the proof. I got the people to tell it.
And we'll look forward to seeing that.
Understand that.
We'll look forward to seeing that.
Understand that. What I say in boxing, I mean, and it's the truth. I risk my life for you's entertainment to see.
No, absolutely.
So why I ain't never lied about nothing in this business. But, you can believe what? Why is it so hard to believe a black man than a white man? Understand me?
Yeah. Okay, so why is it hard to believe a black man or a white man? I guess over a white man, but why is it hard to believe that Mark Breland spiked your water and was disloyal and was colluding with the Kronk gym and all of this other shit? Excuse my French. I didn't believe that. Mark Breland's not white. What's your excuse there? Does Mark Breland have the complexion for the protection? No, I don't think so.
Why is it so hard to believe a black man and a white man?
Why you don't believe it?
Why is it?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go on.
First and foremost,
I think that's Derek. Yeah, it is Derek Desor in the background.
nothing to do with color.
No, yes,
No, it
it does.
hasn't.
This whole country got some. This whole world got something to do with race. You think you pan out? You think you have a? You think you done had a great life? You think your life has been like mine?
Listen,
come on, you got white privilege, brother.
Oh,
I ain't never had that.
Don't start my.
I'm a black man with dark skin. Ain't nothing ever been given to me. I done had to kick in every opportunity that I've had.
What about Mark Breland?
Y'all don't understand. Maybe y'all don't talk about this shit in this country.
Yes, we do, mate.
But when you get me in here, I speak the peace. I speak the truth.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you.
Yeah, go on.
If this is about color,
y'all got the wrong person.
Yeah, go on.
If he's about color,
y'all understand that.
How is Derek Chisora then, out of curiosity, given he's a black man, a national treasure in this country then? It's not about color. You called somebody a cheat. I asked you a question.
Oh, come on. You have a whole lot of black people around this.
The question.
Thank you.
Didn't like the question. All right, I moved on. I moved on.
I want to pull it back in. Derek, let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question about fight week. Deontay, let me just get into Derek about fight week. Now, both of you are known to be dynamic in fight week. We just see that.
Okay, so there you have it. I don't always agree with Simon Jordan, but I definitely do agree with him bringing up the statements that Deontay Wilder has made, because he actually made these statements recently. Again, I'm trying to remember what interview I saw him make the statements with. It might have been Cigar Talk. Probably was Cigar Talk. But again, he brought this up recently. So it's fair game. I mean, you bring it up in an interview. Why is it not okay for Simon Jordan to bring it up? Right? You blamed your loss on Mark Breland. Why isn't it okay for him to bring that up? Right? Mind you, it's very funny to me. He brings up the race factor, right? I don't remember him blaming JD's for his loss. Remember him blaming Mark Breland. I don't remember him saying JD's spiked his water. Remember him saying that about Mark Breland. So where was the race factor then? Why is it only the race factor when it's convenient to your narrative? Right? But it's not the race factor when it's inconvenient to your narrative, like JD's and Mark Breland. Anyways, I digress. It's very unfortunate that he still can't get over the fact that he lost to a gypsy from Greater Manchester. The whole world saw it. Okay? It's nothing to be ashamed about. He lost to the better man. Right? And it's funny that we've had 3 different fights with Fury. He still can't get over it. The first fight, he was robbed. The second fight, he was cheated. What about the third fight? Right? Because before the third fight, he had his whole team going in making fools of themselves at the glove inspection. You guys remember that? I covered it on this channel. I did a whole video thing of it, analyzing it. It was ridiculous, but it is what it is. Anyways, last segment of Punchlines today is going to be on TKO boxing, Zuffa boxing, UFC boxing, whatever you want to call it. And I'm also going to talk about the WBC too, because the WBC situation versus this new promotion kind of came up, the courtesy of Ariel Helwani. So I'm going to get into that next. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Here we go.
My punchline's harder than the grizzly bear smack. If you try to get beat air, you'll head black. Put you down under like where the koala bear's at.
And here we go. Yeah. So what do I think about TKO boxing, Zuffa boxing, Dana White boxing, UFC boxing? First thing I think, the name is trash. Zuffa boxing, really? That's the best you could come up with? Oh, but Maestro, you don't understand. That's Italian for fighting. Yeah, it sounds even more stupid now that you put it in those terms. I mean, fighting boxing, that's the name of your promotion? Fight boxing? As I told some people the other day, it's like, you don't need to say hamburger sandwich, coffee drink. It makes no sense. The name isn't good. I don't know why they just didn't call it UFC boxing or, I don't know, Ultimate Boxing Championship. Anything would have been better than Zuffa boxing. So let's put that aside. Not a big fan of the name. Second issue. The quality of these cards has not been very good at all. Let me just state that for a fact. I was open-minded about this. I understand they're just getting started. I get that. But it's not very good. It's not any better than Friday night fights on ESPN. Or remember Boxeo on Univision that used to happen regularly? Right? Or USA Boxing, Tuesday night fights. Remember the good old days? That's what it reminds me of. I was telling this to a friend the other day. It reminds me of, the first time I saw WCW when I grew up watching WWF. But I remember the first time I saw WCW, I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? This is like a TV studio. Is this what they do every week? It turned out it was what they did every week. They had wrestling in a TV studio in Atlanta week after week after week. I guess that's what this is going to be. So at first, I was like, this actually doesn't look so bad. I understand it's not a big crowd. It's TV studio, kind of looks okay. Then I started to think about it, and I was like, doesn't really look that good. So the name is trash. Taking place in a TV studio with mediocre fights. Not a very good start. But that isn't actually the nail in the coffin for this particular boxing promotion. So, actually, before I get to that, I'm going to answer some questions. The last card was good. The last card was an improvement. You're talking about Gavaznik against Hot Rod and Valenzuela. This is the issue I'm going to go over right now. Why I had issues with the card. Let's talk about the Butayev fight, right? Butayev's last fights were as a welterweight, and he was fighting at 160 pounds. The only reason he was fighting at 160 pounds is because they don't have 154 pounds. And I'm guessing the reason they don't have 154 pounds is because they don't have enough fighters to fill out these divisions. So was it a good fight? Yes. I think Butayev was at a disadvantage, although I did think he did much better than he got credit for. But I don't think Butayev would be fighting at 160 if there were opportunities for him at 154. Just my opinion. But this is actually the problem I'm going to paint is actually bigger than the competitive nature of the fights. All right. And this is the issue. And I got to give credit because I'm pretty sure this is Marcos Villegas asking this question at the first at the press conference. Here's the question and here's the answer. Let's have a listen. Here we go. Oh, I got to share it. Hold on. Here we go.
In terms of the rankings, when do you guys think you guys are going to get that established, and how are you guys going to go about doing that?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, that's something we have to start working on this week. Yeah. Yeah.
So, rankings. Remember, their main selling point in this was the best fighting the best. And right out the gate, they don't have any clear, concrete plan for ranking the fighters. I'm going to explain in a moment why that's going to be an issue for this. Let's continue. Here we go.
The answer is yes.
Do you have an idea? Like, is there anything like you could share, like the thought process behind how that's going to work?
Well, I mean, if you look at other things we've done, like the UFC, power slap. I mean, we created rankings for that. This shouldn't be too tough.
Okay, so it's not going to be too tough to create rankings because they did rankings for power slap and they did rankings for the UFC. This is the issue, and this is going to be a very big problem for this organization, and I'm going to explain why. The next question is about the ring. The next question is about the ring belt. The next question is going to be about people in Zuffa boxing fighting for the ring belt, right? Don't forget, the ring has its own rankings. Let's have a listen. Here we go.
Rayo, a few days ago, and he had mentioned, I just want to get clarification on this. Will the Zuffa fighters be allowed to fight like the ring fighters, like and the ring shows? Will they be allowed to go there and get those fights?
Yes.
So how does that work? Because they have a belt. You guys will have a belt. Like how it's...
You can have both belts. Yeah.
Uh-oh. That's not going to work. That is not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. They've set up a situation, if you're listening carefully, where Zuffa fighters are going to be able to fight for ring belts. Zuffa is going to recognize the ring champions, right? And the Ring magazine. Well, how do you do that if you have your own ranking system? How is that any better than what they say that they're here to fix? Multiple organizations, multiple ranking systems, multiple, distinct bodies where the best can't fight the best. So I'm going to give you an example right now. Let's go to the lightweight division because we just saw a card where Rayo Valenzuela fought for Zuffa in the lightweight division, right? Okay, great. So Dana just said that the Zuffa fighter is going to be allowed to fight, right, for the ring belt. Okay, so Rayo Valenzuela fights for the vacant title, let's say, against Shakur Stevenson. I think we all know how that's going to go. So what happens then? Stevenson keeps the Zuffa belt outside of Zuffa? Or Rayo goes back to Zuffa after losing to Stevenson and continues to fight where the best only fight the best? Do you see the problem? Do you see the issue? Do you see the dilemma that has been caused by the statements that have been made up to this point? You can't have your own ecosystem all under Zuffa, putting the issues of the name aside, putting the other issues aside. You can't have a Zuffa ecosystem where you have your own rankings, but then at the same time say that you're going to allow those people to fight on ring shows and Riyadh season cards against Ring Magazine rankings fighters for Ring Magazine champions. It breaks up the whole system. I don't see how that can work. You guys let me know how that works. I don't see how that could work. Rayo Valenzuela fights Raymond Murataya for the ring belt, let's just say, right? We're not recognizing the IBF title that Raymond Murataya has, but we recognize the ring and we recognize the ring rankings. So he takes the Zuffa belt over to Riyadh for Riyadh season or one of these ring shows and fights Raymond Murataya, and I think Murataya beats him, just going to put that out there, and loses. Does Murataya keep the Zuffa belt? Or does Rayo just take the Zuffa belt back to Zuffa after a big loss on a big stage, thereby making it clear to everyone that Zuffa isn't where the best fight the best? That's a problem. I don't see how you resolve that problem. I just don't see it. So I could be wrong on this, but I just don't see how you resolve that issue. I just don't see it. It's illogical. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. So it makes sense, let's say, if you have, let's say Jai Opataya ends up unifying, right? The WBC title with his IBF title and ends up challenging the winner of Benavidez Zurdo for undisputed, right? Well, you've already said you don't recognize the other belts. Okay. But let's just say that fight takes place and Jai Opataya wins, right? And goes back to Zuffa as the Zuffa champion. In that situation, it works. The problem is that situation isn't a guarantee at all. In fact, I would say that situation is an anomaly. I would say that overall, given how the sport is currently constructed, the best fighters are not in Zuffa. So if a Zuffa champion ends up fighting for a ring belt, which is what Dana just said is the plan, and ends up leaving the slap fight UFC style ranking system of Zuffa and goes into the ring ranking system and loses, bro, that destroys your business right there. It's over. You've just made it clear to everyone that you are an inferior product, that your champions are minor league champions. You're not the Premiership. You're not UEFA Champions League. You're like Ligue 3 in France. What are we doing? So, I don't know. Just my thoughts on that one. I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that one. I'm going to go through a couple comments. And then, I'll let you guys know what I think as I wrap this up. So, M-Easy, let's start with you. M-Easy says, Matchroom just had to match an exclusive offer for BAM that Zuffa offered first. Okay, that's true. Virtuoso says, I thought Zuffa was supposed to be going by the OG8 weight classes to condense the talent pool, but after signing Opataya, a man who fights in the most recent established weight class, is a broken promise. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think Wheelchair, you're making a good point, which is that there has been a lot of issues with boxing up to this point. And I agree. I'm not here to defend the practices that have been occurring up to this point. In fact, I wanted to talk about something that relates to Suleiman, who was on Hawani's show. I saw it like a couple nights ago. And I got to say this. The WBC has a lot of problems. 100%. This whole thing about Crawford paying the sanctioning fees or refusing to pay a sanctioning fee. Let me ask you guys this. What other championship, like, do people pay sanctioning fees for? I mean, if France wins the World Cup, they don't pay a sanctioning fee to FIFA, right? If somebody wins Wimbledon or the US Open, they don't pay a sanctioning fee after winning a tennis tournament. So I've never understood why fighters even are paying sanctioning fees. At best, those should be paid for by the promoter who's promoting the event. The fact that the fighter pays a sanctioning fee out of the purse of the fighter is something that has to change. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's never made sense to me why a sanctioning fee for a fight in one location is $300,000. But, you know, a sanctioning fee for a flyweight title in Thailand is like a couple grand. A sanctioning fee, whatever the price is, should be a sanctioning fee, or at least set to some kind of cost that needs to be recuperated. I've never understood that. So I am against sanctioning fees. I am against the way the WBC has been operating and these other sanctioning bodies as well in terms of charging the fighters. However, that doesn't dismiss the fact that the way things have been explained just in the first 2 weeks, and yes, there was an improvement with the second card over the first card with Zuffa Boxing. Horrible name, by the way. I still don't understand how you're going to resolve that. Having an ecosystem where, unlike the UFC, people can step out of that ecosystem to fight people who are recognized as like the best reigning world champion in that sport. And then after you lose, go back with your belt and pretend that you're still the best, doing the best, fighting the best, within the best system. I don't really understand how that works. So there you go. I'm going to leave it like that for there, guys. Wanted to get back to streaming for as long as my back will allow. And I'll be back soon. Got a hard out today, but I will be back soon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This was Punchlines. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
The Maestro.
Fist hits the bag, 1, 2, and comes back. Single fist here. You hear that beat?
Think outside the box and BOXing on top of them, cocking them, sending back to the corner for oxygen. Golden gloves, I know myself, I know the game, it's not a game, I know the ring, I want the belt. Finding the rhythm to hit him, split him and touch him and tip him, hit that six pack with that quick tap. Uppercut the bro, making them fall down, breaking them all down, switch stands, tippy toe, in the hands, give him some more. You are not Muhammad Ali, anomaly, a Mayweather, Pacquiao, prodigy in the midst of fist, this just S too hot to rock, think out the box, you know I got the rock, speed back.
That would be a little round.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even gotta taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even gotta chase.